Hello, welcome. It's absolutely gorgeous to be here. My name is Donna Easton. I am thrilled to be here on behalf of HelpBnk. And I'm here to talk about joy and happiness and how joy and happiness leads to success. So, success in our businesses, in our work, but also in our lives. What does a successful and beautiful life look like? So I'm Donna Easton. I'm a joyologist. Now, I often get asked what a joyologist is, so I will introduce myself. So who is Donna Easton? As I say, I'm a joyologist. I am obsessed with the things that make us happy. I'm obsessed with how we have a happy and a fulfilled and an exciting and I suppose, a life and a work and a business that is aligned with the very essence of who we are. I'm not and haven't always been one of those annoyingly cheerful people. Hello, Natalie. So a lot of the time I know that there are people that are just generally happy, the kind of people that would walk into an office and just be this kind of upbeat, hyper person. Now, I haven't always been that person. I think it's really important to say, because happiness is a muscle that I've had to exercise. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background, and then you can kind of hear a little bit more about me. So my upbringing was great, but there was a lot of trauma in my childhood. I wanted to be a performer, but I got a real job for a while, and eventually, while I was doing that real job, I was still auditioning to go and perform, and eventually got offered my dream job, which was performing overseas in production shows. I got offered the job on the Thursday. By the following Tuesday, Wednesday, most of my hair had fallen out. So I went and still did the contract, but I did the contract with what can be described as a granny wig. I felt disgusting. I felt hideous. I was just constantly looking at who I was, constantly not being able to look at myself in the mirror, felt incredibly self-conscious. The dancers that I danced with in my show were all much, much smaller than me, and that made me feel like a behemoth. So then that kind of ensued this decade really of incredibly disordered eating, bulimia, and just a real kind of I suppose, an attack of self-hatred on myself. Um, it's one of those things that has just kind of I've had to work on. And so this kind of self-love thing, this trauma from my childhood, this not being able to even look at myself in the mirror, not being able to say the word alopecia, not being able to think that I was valid or of value in any walk of life was I suppose something that made me not the happiest person in the room at all times. I know we've all had our stuff, and so it's probably always interesting for me to share this with people, because I think that some people just assume that the happiest people in the room have had it easy, and that simply isn't always the case. I'm a single mum. I did, after that contract, I did get myself another normal, in inverted commas, job. And for the last kind of 20 odd years, I worked my way up to head of commercial for a media and events company. And basically, that was my life. I was on that track to success, or what I thought at the time success looked like. And actually, if I think back and in with retrospection, those clothes never quite fit me. I never quite fit that corporate model. I'd kind of had these out of body experiences at work, and just couldn't really understand why everyone was communicating in the way that they did. It always, well, baffled me, quite frankly. And so when the pandemic came, I was furloughed pretty much instantly. I realized I had a choice there within the pandemic. I could look at what was on my phone and what was on the news and kind of access this very real fear that was out there in the world, or I could choose something different. And so while everyone else was buying toilet rolls and pasta, I bought disco balls and an amp and art supplies. And my daughter and I had discos every day. And I just tried to look at it differently, look at what my world could look like. And then kind of came this obsession with happiness. What do the happiest people do? Are the most successful people in the room generally the happiest? Not always, but we'll come on to that. What does success and happiness look like? How do we make ourselves happy before we try and make our business happy and the rest of the world happy? So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell. But I would love to hear from you. First of all, I have asked thousands of people this on my travels, and I would love to know, write in the chat box, or if you're watching on recording, just write down in a notebook or on your phone, like, what makes you happy? What makes you happy? I would love to know. I would love to know. So I'm going to wait for some comments. What makes me happy is my daughter, is being able to communicate to beautiful people on here, seeing my children laugh, says Tabitha. Beautiful. What else? I'd love to hear what makes you all happy. Hanging out with my friends makes me happy. Hanging out with my partner makes me happy. Good food makes me happy. Being debt free, everything I can sort out myself. Yeah. Helping other people. Here we go. Helping others makes me happy. Beautiful. My daughter and the way she looks at me. Isn't that just beautiful, Stefan? Yeah, I love that. Happiness, right? As I say, I've asked thousands of people, sunset, sunrise, my children, my grandchildren, helping neurodivergent people. Beautiful. The interesting thing, I think, about this question and the answers that I get, in all of the thousands of people that I have asked, the feel of heat from sun on my skin. These are gorgeous answers. The answers are always, and we know this stuff, right? We know this stuff. The answers are always the simplest, most beautiful things. They are never, what makes me happy is my paycheck. What makes me happy is the fact that I've got this promotion at work. The fact that I'm happy is that, you know, I got the house with the garage and the blah, blah, blah. Like, it's never that. It's always the simplest things. Now, we know that as human beings, and yet daily we forget. We forget about the things that make us happy. So what I am going to do over the next 20 minutes or so is I am going to take you through something that I have developed called the Elated System for Happiness. It's 6 steps. The 6 steps to happiness will change your life in a way that is marketed. It will change your life in a way that I'd like you to report back and tell me how, because a lot of us think that happiness and joy is a nice to have in our life, but actually what we tend to do, we start our businesses, we go into this kind of treadmill of promotion in a job. We do all these things because we think they're going to make us happy. So what we do is we put happiness as an over there-ness. The happiness is in the future. Or sometimes we think about the happy times that are in the past. What we need to do, and what these 6 steps start to do, is they start to make you feel happy and raise that barometer for happiness right now. And if we're happier right now, everything starts to shift. So I'm very excited to take you through, if I can get my things. Yes, I can. So first up, now this is not one of the 6 steps. The 6 steps is called the elated system. And I couldn't put G because otherwise it would be the elated system, which doesn't make sense. But I just want to overarch the elated system with gratitude. Does anyone in the room, does anyone listening on replay have an active gratitude practice? Now, my brain likes to kind of know and understand the kind of science of happiness. And so what gratitude does, it actually starts to shift the neural pathways in our brain. There's a remarkable woman, Brené Brown, who some of you might know, who did a massive body of research around the most joyful people. And she found that the happiest people had an active gratitude practice. Now, an active gratitude practice is where you actively practice gratitude. Every morning, I write 3 things I'm grateful for. If you need help with that, I'm not sure the people in the room do because they've already told me about beautiful things that make them happy. But every day, first one is my daughter. 3 things I'm grateful for. Beautiful. Some of you in the room already actually do it, which is amazing. 3 things I'm grateful for. Number 1 is always my daughter, without fail. As one of you did in the comments before, I actually try to think of something specific about my daughter, the way the sunlight catches her hair, the way she laughs, the way she was brilliant when I saw her little face run out of school the other day, like all of those things, like that will always be my number 1. Number 2 will be something about my life. So it might be my partner, it might be the fact that I have a safe home, it might be the fact that I have milk in the fridge, it might be the fact that I have a mug from which to drink my cup of tea in the morning. That will be my number 2. And then number 3 is a wild card. So I like to get my brain to think a little bit more outside the box and think of something that makes me kind of laugh and brings me a little bit of joy. So it might be something like, I am grateful that giraffes exist in the world. I am grateful that hippopotamuses squash watermelons with their mouths when they're eating. I think they eat watermelons, but anyway, something like that. I try and think of something a little bit outside the box that makes me giggle, makes me laugh, and makes me happy. So there are my 3 gratitudes. Gratitude, if you do it for a few weeks, after a few weeks, it will start to shift the neural pathways in your brain because we are built for negativity. What gratitude does, it overrides that and it starts to build these positive pathways in our brains. And who doesn't want a little bit of that? So gratitude is the overarching. The first letter in my elated system for happiness is energy. We talk about energy in the well-being space a lot. This kind of, how's your energy, man type thing. We hear that a lot. My energy, and I think specifically since I've run my own business, is how am I showing up each day? Not just how am I showing up for my work, but how am I making my little girls sandwiches in the morning? How am I walking down to the village each day? So what I like to do is something called dialing up your fizzy. Now, I know that soda streams have had a bit of a resurgence. So if any of you don't know what a soda stream is, they are a machine that you can put water in or some kind of syrup, I think we had in the 80s, and it fizzes it up so you get like a carbonated fizzy drink. Well, I like to imagine that I have a soda stream button on my system, so on my tummy, on my stomach, that I can press that dials up this fizzy of who I am. When I've dialed up my fizzy, and it's probably important to say that I don't do this every single morning. Some mornings I am being a human being and living a human existence where I'm chasing my daughter around with a pair of tights and all of that kind of stuff. So I aim to every morning dial up my fizzy. If I have a meeting, if I'm doing something like this, you can guarantee that I would have dialed up my fizzy that day. So I imagine that I have a soda stream button on my tummy and I press it, and I imagine this kaleidoscopic bunch of bubbles that are like coursing through my system. I like to feel my skin tingle. I like to feel everything's exciting. There's everything to play for. And that's how I want to start my day. I want to start my day in a way that's exciting and feels exciting and makes me feel excited. Dialing up your fizzy isn't just about kind of slaying it in a meeting room. Like, that's not the entirety of what dialing up your fizzy is. Dialing up your fizzy is also about, like, what are we putting out into the world? As an example, the other morning I was walking down through the village, and there was a lovely little lady standing in the village, and I said to her, "Oh, I like your brooch." I was feeling good. I liked her brooch. She looked great. And she was taken aback. She said, "Oh, thank you." And as I walked off, I had a spring in my step because I thought that was a cute little exchange. We had a couple of little words with each other, and then off I went. Now, that's because I dialed my fizzy up. I could have walked past her, with my head buried in my phone, but I didn't. I'm looking at the world. I'm seeing what the world has to offer me. That morning, it happened to be this lovely lady. And as I walked off, I thought to myself, my goodness, like, I just know I'm responsible for putting out good stuff into the world, right? If I'm putting out good stuff into the world, that's kind of my work done, if you like, for the morning. Like, that is what is so important here. Yes, we can be starting beautiful, game-changing businesses. Yes, we can be these amazing entrepreneurs that have success and all that kind of stuff. But actually, what's the beautiful stuff that daily we're putting out that make the world go round, right? And your lady that I met the other morning, now, I have no control over whether the fact that I was the fifth person that morning that told her her brooch was lovely, or I was the only person that she'd had an exchange with in the last 10 days. Now, I don't know what that is, and I don't know whether she's had loads of people tell her she looked great. But what I do know is that I'm giving the good stuff out into the world, and that's lifted her and it's lifted me, right? So energy. This is not rocket science, but it does have the power to change everything for you. So energy is the first letter. L, second letter of the elated system. So we're dialing up our fizzy. L is laughter. We don't laugh enough when we're grown-ups, right? When we're kids, we laugh, we crack up, we act like absolute wally brains. We do all those things that make us giggle. We tickle each other, we sod about, we do all the things that make us excited and excited for life, right? We if you hear, my daughter's 8, so the amount of times she laughs throughout the day compared to the amount of times I laugh throughout the day, I mean, there's a stark difference. Laughter yoga, someone's mentioned laughter yoga in the comments, and yes, isn't it just brilliant, Alex? It's wonderful. So how do we kind of get those endorphins kick in? How do we laugh more? And honestly, it's stopping ourselves from caring so much about what other people think of us as a grown-up. I am always baffled beyond measure at why and how why we adult in the way that we do. I'm always baffled. I used to be baffled in the corporate world as to how, someone might be giving their son horsey rides in the morning, and by the time they've got to work, like, this different person has emerged. It's this corporate business person that then seems to exist. Now, laughter for me is like medicine. It's like the air that I breathe. If I'm not laughing, I'm not living. And so how do I do things each day and each week to make sure that I'm maximizing that laughter, right? So I act like a silly ass a lot of the time. I my daughter will be watching TV and I slither in on my stomach like a slug and we act like a pair of idiots. I, my partner will be watching TV and I will put a black hoodie on and crawl in like a ninja just to like sod around a bit, right? Just like re-access that playful, that silly. Yeah, it is quite fun. Just to be silly, right? But we forget how silly we can be as grown-ups. And so it's re-accessing that silliness. Someone's written, I really don't like social media, but if I want to laugh, I jump on TikTok for a few minutes, super funny people on there. I just go on their profile. Right. That's so beautiful. And I think what you actually bring up there is something that is fundamental about acting like a silly thing and doing silly things. It's being aware of our consumption. What are we consuming day to day? Who are we hanging out with? Are we scrolling through social media, exactly as you articulate, doom scrolling, and then 2 hours go by and we're like, oh Christ, I should have, and we're like, then we're telling ourselves off, right? Or are we watching comedy? Are we watching light-hearted things? You've only got to look at Simon's social and you just see this kind of like beautiful stuff that's going out and him giving people these kind of leg ups and these gorgeous kind of gifts of of like starters for people, and it's just the most beautiful thing. So are we nourishing our soul with beautiful stuff? And so consumption is absolutely critical here as well. We could have BBC News 24 on in the background all day, or we could keep abreast of current affairs, but we cannot let it infiltrate and kind of totally permeate our system, right? So laughter. So E and L, we've got dialing up our fizzy and we're laughing and watching funny stuff. This is not rocket science, and actually it's quite fun once you get going. A of the elated is access your creativity. When we're little, we are these beautiful, creative souls. We slap paint on paper, we sculpt with clay, we play with plasticine, we get our fingernails dirty, we get covered in mud and all the other stuff, right? As grown-ups, even when we have seemingly creative jobs, we don't get our hands dirty with creativity. We're not accessing that bit of us that connects our mind to our hands and our bodies. We're not expressing ourselves enough. My dad would say, oh, I'll have a dance in a minute after a couple of scotches. Like a lot of us as grown-ups, we need a couple of drinks before we can actually let our hair down and get excited and do the fun stuff. So what's the stuff that we can access that opens up that excited and creative and beautiful part of us? Start painting, draw, sketch, doodle, bake cakes. It's all the stuff that during the pandemic or when we were locked down, we instantly turned to because we need that creativity. And what you'll find once you start reconnecting that part of your brain to your body, you'll find that you'll be sitting, I don't know, writing a strategy for the next 6 months of your business, and you'll be start accessing this creative part of your brain. So your thoughts start to become it's creative thinking, right? So we're dialing up our fizzy, we're laughing a bit more, and we are painting and playing with clay. Rocket science so far? Nope. T is try new things. We have well-trodden grooves in our brains that get us from A to B. They get us up in the morning. We get up in the morning, we do a wee, we brush our teeth, we then go into the same wardrobe and we open up the cupboard. We're on autopilot for a lot of this stuff. We drive to the office, we get the train, we get the tube into, I don't know, the co-work space, and it's a lot of it is on this kind of autopilot treadmill. We don't stop to look up. And also what we do is we go the same way every morning. I used to stand at exactly the same spot on the platform every single morning. And like, woe betide if someone was standing in my spot. That was my spot. But we need to shake our brains up a little bit. If you imagine the difference between your physiology when you're driving to a route that you do every day, or you're driving somewhere brand new, or you go and visit a new city, or you travel to a new place, you're like, your whole physiology shifts when you're somewhere new or you're looking for somewhere. Like that's your brain coming to life. So try new things. Eat food that you haven't eaten before. Chat to someone new when you're getting a cup of coffee at the workspace or down in Costa. Just open up this variety for yourself. There are so many beautiful courses and things that we don't know, and yet we want to enter this kind of learning mode. Certainly with as entrepreneurs, we have this kind of resurgence of learning. I had to learn how to build a website. I had to learn how to do so many things in my business that weren't in my skill set. So what is the learning, and are we accessing and firing off these beautiful new parts of our brain? Exist in the now. We know about mindfulness. We hear about mindfulness a lot. It's in the zeitgeist of our world and our community. But my exist in the now is existing in the now with some wonderment. So if you take a moment just to actually look around you and just understand how beautiful. Now, I'm in a co-work space and there's a picture behind me, but if you could see in front of me, it's like grey felt walls. So I'm looking around me and I'm trying to find something beautiful to access my wonderment. And I suddenly go like, well, hang on a second, like it is beautiful. Like at one time, this was, I don't know, a plan on a piece of paper, an architect's plan on a piece of paper, and someone's granddad or grandmother or mum or dad or sister or brother has painted these walls, and someone has put this whiteboard up here because they thought that would be a beautiful thing to have in here. Someone has painted this picture behind me, and here I am talking to a bunch of amazing people through the power of something called the internet. And like, the world is wonderful. The wonderment exists, right? If we look at our world and our existence and see the wonderment of the world that we're sitting in, the wonderment of the stuff that we've created, we then start to see it for the pure magic that it is, right? And everything around you shifts when you start to look at things with wonderment. I stop and look at ladybirds like strolling across the wall. I will, be amazed that the new daffodils are coming up along the road where I live right now. It's beautiful. What we see a lot in today's society is either this compare and despair mentality when we're scrolling through social media and seeing thousands of people doing better than us, having better than us, having more than us, all of that kind of stuff. And so we're despairing about our own space in that. What we do is we walk around and we don't see the beauty of the world that we're living in and the reality of the existence that we're living in. So exist in the now, but exist in the now with a sense of wonderment. It truly is a beautiful way to live. And the last one is do you. I always ask people how your life would shift and how would your business shift and how would your family life shift if you walked out each morning like a goddamn rock star. And I'm not saying this is in a kind of conceited way. I'm saying it in a way where you're just like owning your you-ness, the amazing extroverted you, the slightly introverted you, the days that you're not feeling 100%, but you actually get out of bed and do something days. Like all of that stuff is pure magic. The fact that we exist in the world, the actual like conception and the creation of a baby it's like stuff from an alien movie. Like it's nuts. And yet we forget each day that we are walking, talking, business owning, family keeping together, kitchen cleaning. Like, we are remarkable and amazing human beings wherever we are in our journey and whatever it is that we're doing. So I just wanted to leave you with this kind of validity around who we are, regardless of what we're doing and where we are. So the last one is do you. So we're dialing up our fizzy, we're laughing a bit more, we are accessing the creative, we're trying a few new things, we're existing in the now with wonderment, and we are doing you. We're remembering that we're pure magic. So that's it. That's the elated system for happiness. I would love to answer any questions that any of you have. If you contact me on my Life Shines, I'm happy to send you like the PDF of all of this stuff that you can refer back to. And also I've got a dial up your fizzy meditation that you can access as well.